Hi, welcome to New Conference. My name is Chris Abraham, and I'll be moderating this session. This is the 10 o'clock Eastern session with VJ Angelo, entitled "How to Build a Regulatory Framework for Blockchain." Welcome to our free online conference. New Conference. It's run by Newconomy Media in partnership with the University of Blockchain and ICO. The conference will be streamed worldwide from Facebook Live and our website. So please check it out for the rest of the day. It goes on tomorrow and on to Thursday as well. There's a panel after this that's going to be very exciting too. For the topic this morning, we have, like I said, how to build a regulatory framework for blockchain. This is a very hot topic, and we have the top expert in this space today to address it and discuss it, the CEO of Cryptoindex.io, VJ Angelo. We'll introduce him in a second. Before we start our conversation with VJ, I would love to present our sponsor for this stream, Astra International Mining Pool, responsible mining with a focus on transparency and sustainability. All the members shares never expire, and they reinvest 100% in their equipment. Please remember that we have a flash mob running online right now. Please take a selfie where you are grasping each forearm, your own forearm, with your other hand to show us you want to bridge the divide for a decentralized world. And use the hashtag CryptoStrong. Challenge 3 friends to join you and tag them in the post. And a note from conference sponsor, Crypterium Crypto Bank. Crypto is the future of money, and Crypterium makes it a reality today. Or you can offer your own questions that you'd like to discuss. You can do it at any time during the conference, aside from the questions that I'll be asking VJ in just a few minutes. I'm checking the chat all the time. We have a team checking the chat. Lilia is right out there. Hello, Lilia. And once everyone has voted for a question that they like the most, I'll ask the most popular question that Lilia or anybody else goes ahead and recommends. It's very exciting. I love being part of the community here. Finally, before we start, I'd like to share one of the goals of this online conference. We want to help explain how this new economy works. VJ already knows how the economy works, and so he's here to help us have some insight into blockchain. Now you can know how blockchain works and how the crypto world works. We want to help explain how the new economy works, where it's heading, and what it'll be like in the next couple of years. It's sort of akin to the Brave New World, just like we needed to learn and understand how the internet worked a quarter of a century ago, or even how to harness electricity back in the 1880s. We've prepared courses and coursework for you, very affordable. Please check the link in the chat and our website for these educational resources on blockchain and cryptocurrency technology. Okay, excellent. Now we have VJ Angelo. He's the CEO of Cryptoindex.io, and he is an expert on the future of crypto and regulatory influences. VJ, would you introduce yourself, and then we'll move on to the questions and conversation.
Sure, thank you, Chris. So as Chris mentioned, my name is VJ Angelo. I'm the CEO of Cryptoindex.io, which is a firm developing and producing a new index of the top 100 coins in cryptocurrencies. My personal background is I've been involved in the investment banking and finance community for over 34 years. I've been involved in the production of indices that have ended up on futures contracts on exchanges. Other indices have been used for data and
Cool, thank you. All right, well, you know, blockchain is such a dynamic topic, right? Because it deals with the backbone of Bitcoin and Ethereum and all the other currencies that are out there, and it's also a tool with which to track transactions, and it's changing the world for you know, companies like shipping companies and believe it or not, vintners are vintners are finding ways of being able to track against counterfeit wine and all kinds of things all over the world. Like today, we're going to go into what kind of regulatory influences and those kinds of things. But feel free to go ahead and explore the entire breadth and width of blockchain um, with our viewers. But the first question is, what kind of regulatory influences can we see on the crypto market?
First two things, I'd like to apologize. I think my internet connection is not as stable as I like, so if it disappears briefly, I do apologize. Second,
Sure.
I think in backing your previous statement, um, we need to define a difference between blockchain and cryptocurrencies. And again, cryptocurrencies and utility tokens, and then finally, all of the above and security tokens. They're all very, very different markets, used for very different purposes, and often get lumped under one heading of crypto. Blockchain is, of course, a technology that underpins effectively the confirmation and settlement of transactions, or guaranteeing the history of any particular asset class. As you mentioned, it could be wine, it could be property, it could be any number of other things. Cryptocurrencies tend to be a blockchain currency, which the ultimate aim of which is to potentially replace fiat, or certainly augment fiat, as we all know. Then we have the ICO market, which has predominantly been utility tokens, and in some cases, what should really be in class as security tokens. These have become a fund mechanism for companies, fintech companies, and a wide variety of others. I think the regulatory framework that we're talking about is aimed predominantly now at the ICO market, and what we're seeing as the conversion from the ICO market to the security token market. I think the big issue with the regulatory framework has been that there has been none for ICOs. Funding and capital raise has been a heavily regulated market, and some would argue, me included, that it's been over-regulated for many, many years. It's a very difficult market to be involved in. It's controlled by the banks, by venture capitalists, by funds, and there's some very strict rules and regulations. So I can understand why something like the ICO market suddenly sprang into life. A lot of institutions, that startups, for instance, who are struggling to raise capital, would see an opportunity to do this in a very simple fashion. Some institutions that didn't want to give away equity, for example, could raise capital. Others that didn't want to take on debt in the form of bonds or borrowing could again raise capital without any of those obligations. The problem was that there were absolutely no obligations whatsoever on the issuers of the tokens. There was no obligation to perform some of the promises they made in white papers or transaction decks or promotions or pitches. There was no obligation for them to carry through with the business model. And the value of the investment really only carried with the other investors themselves. So in an ICO, you were beholden to other people wanting to buy the token and hope that it would go up in value based on a business plan, but with nothing actually underpinning the value of the token itself. And that created a problem. So while the ICO market went on, we all hear about scams, we all hear about false promises, and we're hearing increasingly about a large number of court cases, certainly in the UK, 50 firms, I think the FCA announced, were being investigated and possibly prosecuted for mis-selling, misdirection, for effectively conning or defrauding customers out of funds, making promises that they knew very well they couldn't carry through on, and making promises they knew very well that they were never going to achieve. That's the worst end of the scale. Others who just happened not to be able to carry through the promises because they overpromised, and they made sure that they could deliver the business models. And then the lighter end were, people who did actually come through, people who did actually deliver on the promises they made, and deliver businesses. But again, these can take a very long time. So people were basically waiting for returns on their investments and not seeing them in any short period of time. The liquidity in a lot of ICO coins listed on exchanges is not great. And to see or even to exit your investment can sometimes be problematic. So I think having said all of that, I think a degree of regulation where people can't make promises they know full well they can't follow through on. Mm-hmm. They have to show what it is they're going to use the funds for. They have to show who the people in the business are and why they're there, some kind of expertise or some kind of knowledge. And they have to show that the business itself is being invested in and being developed. So this is where we see the utility token and ICO market slowly converging into, transferring into what's being called the security token market, where there is some kind of guarantee to the investor, be it actual equity, which is put into a blockchain format and delivered in the form of a token rather than a share certificate, be it some form of bond, which again is put into a token with a smart contract and delivered through the blockchain in some form of token, or because the ICO market has shown us that there's a variety of other ways that you can develop funding. Perhaps it can be a revenue share, it could be a number of other opportunities, but something that at least guarantees the investor that business they're investing in is A, delivering, and B, they have some form of return on their investment. And I think the challenge for the regulators in the ICO market is to find that middle ground. Right now, there isn't a world-class exchange as such, a London Stock Exchange, a New York Stock Exchange, that could handle what we call security tokens. So if all of a sudden we were suddenly starting to trade security tokens, there isn't an exchange or a clearinghouse of that quality or that level of regulation that could handle that form of trading. They don't have the wallets, they don't have the clearing mechanism, they don't have the blockchains in place. And to be honest with you, a lot of the regulations they're under wouldn't allow for some of the methods of capital raise I've just described. So I think there's going to have to be work with both the exchange community. They all need, no question about that. There have been too many mistakes and too many disasters around the exchange community in terms of the crypto world. The regulators have to accept that there is a new form of funding available for businesses, and it is a lot less onerous in terms of the needs and requirements they currently have in the prospectus rules and regulations, the listing authorities that they have around the world. And I think between the two of them, they've got to find this middle ground. And I think they have to find it relatively quickly, because with the ICO market now effectively on its knees, there's very little happening in the ICO market. That whole structure of funding for a lot of really promising businesses could disappear altogether if there isn't some kind of coming together. I see, certainly from the regulators, they are engaging fairly rapidly, more from the point of protecting investors immediately, but they also understand that a regulation needs to be put in place for this market. They're just not entirely sure how or what. And then the ICO market also needs to understand where they're going. I've spoken to a lot of people who say, oh, we're just going to create a security token, without understanding that by creating a security token, they immediately fall under a lot of the rules and regulations that already exist. And they need to be able to explain to the regulators what it is they're doing, how it is they're doing it, and why they're doing it. So there's got to be a lot of give and take on both sides. Both sides need to come together fairly quickly to allow that to happen.
Yeah, I look back and I see how ICOs are being painted as being fraudsters and everything else. But I got to tell you, for the initial ICOs, it was a revolutionary act of almost zero or low barrier to entry into a fundraising market that only the most prestigious, if you will, Wall Street blue chip companies could earn after a long time. The whole idea of earning all your money, making all your fundraising, compared to an IPO, was just a revolutionary act, and of course completely vulnerable to being taken advantage of. The question we have from the people, believe it or not, VJ, we already have a request from the audience. Lilia, sure.
It's interesting you say that, but I think we saw a transition into the ICO market through crowdfunding platforms, which were a very light touch, new way of connecting investors with small cap startups. So rather than going through, as you described, an IPO through an SME exchange, a small market exchange for very small volume raises, the crowdfunding platforms that developed over the last 10, 12 years were a stepping stone into the ICO market. I think it was a little bit too far of a step from the investor guarantees that some of the crowdfunding platforms had.
Indeed, yes. If you can take a mile, why not take? If you can take an inch, why not take a mile, right? But you're right. Thank you for bearing with me. Again, our sponsor, Astra International Mining Pool, responsible mining with a focus on transparent sustainability. Member shares never expire, and they reinvest 100% in their new equipment. And don't forget that we're currently doing a flash mob running online right now. Please take a selfie where you're grasping each forearm with the other hand to show us you want to bridge the divide for a decentralized world, and use the hashtag CryptoStrong. Challenge 3 friends to join and then tag them in a post. And while we're talking about cool ICOs, Crypterium. Crypto is the future of money. Crypterium makes it a reality today. I would like to also remind you that the entire audience that this is just one of our conference topics. More news and speakers to come. Please read our announcements, follow us on social networks, and connect with us and give us your feedback. We welcome all blockchain-related communities and like-minded people. Our conference is all embracing. Let us know where you're watching this from. Are you watching this from the stream on the website, or are you watching it from Facebook Live? Thank you again to VJ Angelo. Don't forget, have an amazing and productive rest of the day, and I will see all y'all tomorrow. I'm going to be doing the same 10 Eastern Standard interview. Thank you so much for spending your most valuable resource with me. That's not Bitcoin. That's your time. And up next, in about 40 minutes, Dana Garrison will be up next moderating a panel on the exciting topic of how to raise investment funds during a downward market. Anyway, thank you very much. Don't forget, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.